but you can't be so afraid of losing that you're not winning. So a lot of people, especially a lot of guys, they'll get rank. And as soon as they get rank, they start to be, they're afraid to lose, oh, I'm the best guy in the school. I can't go and lose this tournament now. That is the killer. That'll kill your game more than anything. Mm-hmm. Being afraid to lose, or therefore you're not opening your game up. You're not pulling the trigger. You're not doing the moves that you're capable of doing. Being afraid to lose is a huge deal. And there are more people out there that are afraid to lose than would like to admit it.
Welcome to another day, another dollar, another hour of the Matrix BJJ podcast. I'm your host, Paul Tokizolu, and it's great to have you listening today. This weekend, we are hosting Leg Lock Weekend at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu in Kaiserslautern, Germany. On the 25th of March, this Saturday, Oliver Taza from the Danaher Death Squad and TriStar will be teaching a seminar. On the 26th of March, Dean Lister will be teaching a seminar. All of the information for these seminars are on our website at matrix.com, and if you want to join, send us a message to reserve your spot. There's still plenty of room for anyone who wants to come, and if you're in the local area, I really hope to see you there. Additionally, on the 8th of April, Ethan Krellenston, also from the Danaher Death Squad and TriStar, will be joining us again at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu, Kaiserslautern, Germany. There's plenty of space for that seminar as well, and once again, all the information is on our website, matrix.com. My guest today is Toney Waldecker. Toney is a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Helison Gracie. I first met Toney when I was training at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Maryland in Columbia, Maryland. That school is owned by Mike Stewart, who has previously been on this podcast. Toney is an excellent coach, and he teaches every Wednesday night at Mike's Academy, and I always learned a lot going to his classes. Toney is an outstanding jiu-jitsu and MMA coach, and in this episode, we talk about coaching MMA athletes, self-defense jiu-jitsu versus sport jiu-jitsu, and a wide range of other topics. If you like this episode, please visit iTunes or Stitcher and give us a 5-star rating and a review. It's a really great way to support the show. Please give it up for my guest, Toney Waldecker. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Much success you're doing. It's really nice.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It has been a long time since I've been in one of your classes learning about neck cranks and things of this nature. I use your techniques all the time, though. I use them all the time. Like, for example, your neck crank from the mount that you've shown, where you grab underneath their head and you go for the Addams family. And then you grab your bicep and you put your hand on their face and you crank the neck. I use that all the time. It's like one of my go-to moves.
That's a hell. So when you can do it from mount, you can do it from them into your guard as well. It's not the most friendly move. You're not making any friends with that.
No.
But yeah, and it's I kind of reserve that for some MMA stuff these days. I usually like to do the Nogi Ezekiel, if I could, in that position now.
I like to transition between the two. So, I go for the Nogi Ezekiel, they defend. I go for the neck crank, they defend, and then back and forth.
Yeah, they're both effective.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm glad you're getting some mileage out of it.
Oh, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. And, just a lot of your techniques. I really always enjoyed your classes, and it's been too long. For sure. So I'm excited.
That. You got to get back down and visit us.
Yeah, man, I would love to, for sure. So Helison just came through and did a series of seminars, and he taught a lot about I heard Vale Tudo Guard. Or did he do that at every place, or was that just at Mike Stewart's academy?
I think it was at Mike Stewart's. I only made one of the seminars this time around because I had a fighter competing at for a title at the CFFC in Atlantic City, so I had to go out there and corner that, and so I missed the one that I wanted to go to. So, but when he came to the ones in Virginia, I made the one at Dave Patton's school, Combat Gracie, and that was just it wasn't what he did at Mike's. Every seminar I did, it was a little different each one. So Mike's was the only one that I know that was more of an MMA guard type of thing.
Okay.
So I kind of miss it, but his Helison's MMA stuff, his Vale Tudo, whatever, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the best stuff out there.
How does it compare to more modern MMA styles, or what you know a lot of people might teach these days in an MMA school?
Well, that's a good question. I think it affords for more control, and it definitely. I see a lot of guys in MMA, and I'm spending a lot of time doing that, and I'm seeing people in MMA getting beat up while they're in their guard, and it's the guard that he utilizes. It's really hard to get a shot in at him or get a shot in at someone that's doing his guard correctly. Mm-hmm. It really is. I mean, you're like, it's very frustrating, you know, and it allows for some stuff that a lot of other guards won't do, and it also allows for some things that are completely illegal in MMA that would be great for the street. But the main thing is it's got great control, and it affords more opportunity for attacks, and you're not getting beat up. You know, it really that's the main thing. Guys are just. Everyone has these, and people are. First off, in MMA, if you're on your back, you're considered like the refs think you're losing, mm-hmm. And so even if you have to be extremely busy down there to make it look like you're winning. Right. But the main thing with Helison is like you're defending yourself and you're not getting beat up. And it is definitely it's a closed guard. He opens it when he needs to open it, which is a lot of people don't like the closed guard. But I'll tell you one thing: the last place I want to be is in Helison's guard when he's trying to hurt me. You know, because here comes the elbows. Here comes it's a nasty place to be. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of funny. So you know, I've been there at Helison before, and he can make it hurt. You know, so but it is a great guard. If you ever get a chance to do it, every time I show it, and we have guys coming, and we've had some UFC guys come into the Kaizen school and different things like that, and they come in, they're like, wow, I really like that. I like that type of guard when I'm down there, you know. But again, in MMA, you don't want to be on your back. You're automatically losing, you know.
Right.
It doesn't look good for the judges, so you got to really be doing some damage down there.
Right.
You know.
We've seen that lately in the UFC with Brian Ortega. He's been fucking people up in the guard.
Yes, that he's a perfect example of someone that has a really good guard down there. Mm-hmm. So yes, he's an amazing. I was able to do some GST Gracie survival tactics training with him, and that was incredible. That guy's an amazing person. Yeah. You know, him and Henna are just incredible people. Mm-hmm. You know, so you get a lot of good training from them. But yeah, that guy he's really got a great guard. You know, and I wouldn't want to be there with him, but it's kind of similar to Helison's, to be honest with you.
Really?
You know?
Okay.
Yeah. So the way the holding positions and stuff, and you're in trouble when you're there. You're in trouble. You don't want to be there. You know, you want to get out of there. So, and passing it is hard because that's when you get beat up the most, when you try to get out.
Really? How?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, because as soon as you start to pass and start to, it opens your face up. It opens up for an elbow. It opens up for a nasty choke, So while they're trying to pass your guard, they're not defending themselves.
Oh, okay.
You know, so either I kind of look at it this way: you're defending yourself, and you're trying. Your hands are inside, and you're trying not to get popped, elbowed, or swept. And as soon as you start to pass, that's when you open yourselves up with a guard like Helison's, and then you'll take a shot. You know, and trying to open that closed guard. A lot of people disagree, but you can just see Ortega's a perfect example. And if you ever go to a Helison seminar and say, hey, show me what that's all about, you really do, you know. And if you're trying to stay busy and hit and punch, you're not getting anywhere with that because he's got such good control. But as soon as you try to pass, you're going to take a beating. You know, it opens you up. You know, so either if they're holding you, they're not punching you. If they're punching you, they're not holding you. And if they're trying to pass, they're not. It's hard to be aware of what your face opens up, and it sets you up so you can become off balance and you get swept. It's a great guard, but it stems from a closed guard. You know, it opens up, and if they are able to get out, then we got a series of sweeps that are really effective. Helison has a good series of sweeps that are really effective. And it's a systematic sweep system, and it's really nice. We just did that. I just taught a private with that the other day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard when I had Phil Miglarice on the podcast, he was talking about how Helison is really good in the scramble, and I feel like that kind of plays into this Vale Tudo Guard, that you just described. That when things open up, that's when he attacks.
Yeah, that's a very important point. First off, the Miglarice brothers are top of the food chain in my book, and I was just at this last MMA match and MMA tournament in Atlantic City. Ricky Miglarice was up there with his guy, and I was up there with my guy. Different weight classes and everything, but those guys are top of the food chain when it comes to jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, and nothing but respect for them. But he is right. Helison, in the Helison's great in the scramble, and there's no doubt about that. But the guys, he is so controlled. I mean, I think it's not a chaotic scramble for him, in my opinion. You have to go where you have to go where he's leading you where to go, which gets him in a better position during the scramble. It's not just a free for all so much. Helison, he's leading you down the path. So even a scramble, in my opinion, is somewhat controlled with him because everything else, he only leaves you a couple options to move a certain way. And that's the way he wants you to move, just like any other technique. But Helison has it for that. Let's say if we're rolling and I'm when I set you up for stuff, and as you go for the bait, I'm able to capitalize on the bait. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'll have a plan B or plan C. It's the same way with Helison in that situation. So when you're in he's good at the scramble, but there's definitely to me he's forced that issue, and then you get your setup attack. So yes, plus he's super athletic, incredibly fit for his age, and I tell you what, he's the nicest guy in the world, but he's like the meanest guy when he wants to be on the mat. That's why I look at him. That's why I've trained with quite a few Gracies, and he's the one that's impressed me the most by far.
What's one of the things that did impress you about him, other than what you just mentioned, compared to the other Gracies? Why do you feel like you chose Helison or he chose you? Well,
when I started, it was a little over 20 years ago, he was coming to the place we had called Fighters Garage, and we were one of the first schools in the Virginia area, and he would come in, and I just, to me, he seemed more personal, personable. He was just a nice guy. He seemed to really care that I had the moves correctly. He took a personal interest in the fact that he wants to make sure his guys have the moves. And I'm sure that all guys will say that about their instructors. That's what I saw the most about Helison. He was like so generous with his moves, and so you were like his best friend. Until you and when he gets to know you, you're family to him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't hold back on his jiu-jitsu. He'll show you everything, and it's like the more you get to know him, the more pieces of gold you discover, and it's a wonderful thing. I've trained with other Gracies, and I felt like, hey, that was kind of, not, most of them have been incredible, but right. I've been, let's just say I've been with other jiu-jitsu instructors, and, that it just seems like they were just kind of, mailing it in. And Helison wasn't. I mean, he really took an interest, and, he wanted you to be successful. And I'm sure they all do, but that's just what I got from him. One of the nicest, most generous guys ever. I mean, I think Helison, he'll do anything for you. I really believe that, and he no one's perfect, but I tell you what, Helison was one of the nicest, toughest guys I've ever met,
Yeah.
And he will, his jiu-jitsu is incredible, especially for fighting. But he's had a lot of success with guys in sport jiu-jitsu as well. A lot of people could give some thanks to Helison for what he's done, helped them out, even some big names,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would say it was mostly because he really cared that we had the moves. I found his moves to be really effective and simple. They weren't overly complicated, and in a situation, it's fun to do complicated, piece together moves and stuff like that. But I find the simple moves to be the most effective. They're the ones that you can pull out at any time, especially when you're in a situation where it's a fight.
Yeah.
When you're safe and you can just roll around and it's a little more sport, which is fine and love. I love it. But it's hard to pull those stringy, a lot of those moves together. It's hard to pull them together when the guy actually in front of you is trying to hurt you.
Yes.
You want to pull something that's effective, simple, and something that you can. I see a lot of fighters. They're great at the school as soon as they get in competition, especially in MMA. They kind of lose their heads. I'm like, man, we went over that 1,000 times for you.
Yeah.
If it's too complicated, the basics, and I don't mean low level stuff. I'm saying the basics, the fundamental stuff is what works, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you get complicated and all that stuff, I believe that there's a lot of fundamental, basic jiu-jitsu that will shut down a lot of the fancier stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I tell my students, Helison's jiu-jitsu has a great ability to shut down other styles.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
That's what I like about it. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do you have any examples off the top of your head of like a Helison style technique that would shut down a more modern, I guess, sport?
Well, modern,
technique,
I know that for me and a lot of Helison guys, and I don't know if it's modern, it's been around forever, the butterfly sweep, for example. And the Helison style of shutting down the butterfly sweep is really effective. Also, half guard. A lot of guys will just go dive right into the half guard game, and that's fine. It's a whole game there.
Yeah.
And but Helison has just a great half guard. It shuts down all the half guards out there. And the butterfly, I haven't been butterfly swept in a long time, based on the stuff that Helison showed me.
Mm-hmm.
Even good guys, good butterflies, having trouble sweeping me. He's able to shut it down. Very effective. And so that's why I'll teach butterfly, but I only teach it so guys will know it's out there, and it's a whole game out there, and it's a pretty cool game. But once if you go to Helison and say, Helison, show me how to defeat this butterfly guard, he'll show you, and then you're like, wow, it kind of makes you not want to try butterfly anymore, because it is effective. And half guard's another one too. He also has a great mount escape when punches are being thrown. I really can't. All of his techniques are super effective. Have you spent time with Helison at all? Have you ever had a chance to spend time with him?
I went to one of his seminars, and It was great. I really, I'm sure I'll get to train with him again sometime in the future. Sometime when I'm visiting one of your schools or Mike's school or something like that.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed. He was great. It's awesome.
Yeah, try to get a private with him if you can.
Okay.
Going together and do it. We'll get like a semi-private and just pick his brain.
That'd be great, man.
And it is a fun time when you do that.
That'd be great.
But he's big into the self-defense. The self-defense is a big thing with Mike's school, and we're one of the few schools that has a big focus on that.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's needed. And the thing I love about Mike's school is that it's still, his guys are very good in competition too. It's they still know how to roll. Yeah, they do. They do very well. They usually they come back with the team trophy. Yeah.
Which is pretty good. And that's a pretty cool thing to think about. And also at the same time, we're teaching them, the self-defense for the street. And we have a lot of police officers. So I spend a lot of work training officers as well. And there's some things you just can't do sport jiu-jitsu wise if you're a police officer. So you have to be able to, you keep it standing. There has to be control. So that's something that comes in. I spend a lot of time training officers as well. And we have a lot of guys out there. We have at my school we got like 3 black belts right now. Me, Cal, like three black belts, a couple high level browns. One guy from Pedro, which is a really good black belt, tough, very fit. The school's doing really well. Mike's a great guy, and he's a great instructor. And he has a lot of passion behind what he does. I mean, I've heard tons of perspectives on this, but I'd love to hear your take on it. What do you think is the biggest difference between a quote unquote sport style and a self-defense style? Besides the obvious, one is, train. I think they're both
right.
They're both a great thing, and I love the sport jiu-jitsu. I really do. I've competed in it. I've had a little bit of success. I'm old now, but the main difference is the sports stuff doesn't take into consideration surprise attacks, and the self-defense is all about it's all like a surprise attack. It's closer to. Now, I'm not saying listen. If a quality sports competitor was going to get on a fight on the street, I'm sure he would do really well. I mean, that's just, jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu, and I'm sure he'll do really well. What they don't take in consideration is the possibility of weapons, the surprise attacks, the grabs from behind, things that kind of, you weren't really ready for.
Yeah.
And listen, the test we take just for that part, just the self-defense side, not the rest of the jiu-jitsu, is a bear of a test. I mean, a lot of guys fail it, and it's not easy. And for every stripe you get, you have to retake the test again. But, I mean, you got a bunch of knife attacks, a bunch of gun attacks, a bunch of club attacks, grabs from every possible position. You could be standing at a party and someone grabs you. And it's not something, just only a few moves of it are when two guys square up on each other. Everything else is based on when you're just kind of minding your own business and someone surprise attacks you.
Right.
That's something that and we've had good guys coming from great sport guys, and we love to have them. We roll with them, have a good time, and then we show them a few self-defense moves, or we'll do a couple of things with them. And they're like, well, I wasn't ready for that, And I'm like, well, that's what it's all about, what to do when it's a surprise attack, and you're not ready. It's not like two guys going to square up fisticuffs, and sometimes it's like that, but
most of the time not.
You could. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was saying most of the time not.
Yeah, it's definitely it's generally a surprise attack. And it's a big thing about it is distance. Your distance management, is a huge thing. You've heard the thing: heat controls the distance, controls the damage. Mm-hmm. That is a big thing in the self-defense aspect. There's also things that kicking to the knee and different things like that to set up the clinch and stuff. But it really is. It is something that I wish everyone would do in jiu-jitsu, because it's not that just regular jiu-jitsu on the ground sport is not going to do well. You have to practice for the scenarios that could happen in a street fight, just like you practice for the scenarios that can happen in a tournament to be able to be good at both. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
What I mean by that?
That's a great way to put it.
A lot of guys don't. Man, we all practice how to get how to get a heel hook. Or how to pass a half guard, or how to pass an open guard. That's great, and I love it. But how to get out of someone when they just grabbed you from behind when you wasn't ready, when they grabbed your neck from behind, or when they pull a knife out in front of you and you don't have any room to run. Mm. It's that type of stuff that you got to practice and prepare for. And that's the main difference that I'm seeing, and it comes so fast. If I tell you what, if you're like within 4 feet away from me and I'm able to pull out a weapon, a knife or something to come after you, if you haven't practiced for that or just been exposed to that, you're going to get cut. You're going to get stabbed.
For sure.
Even a person that's good at it has a good chance of getting cut and get stabbed.
Yeah.
But it's better to be prepared for that situation than not. So think of it like there's more surprise attacks, unprovoked. It's not like an MMA match where people are squaring up and there's a ref there. These things are something that you have to practice. It's your reflexes with it, your instinctiveness with it. So just like you do on the sports side, which is, again, like I say, it's wonderful. But to be good at sport, you got to practice. To be good at the self-defense, you got to practice. And if the self-defense guys, if that's all they do is self-defense, and then they try to go in a sport competition, they're going to get killed. Mm. They're not ready for it. But if a sport guy wanted to come in and started working with some regular self-defense moves, he's going to have a lot of trouble, and he's not going to do well.
Yeah.
So my thing is, do them both. You got plenty of time. Why not train both? I can tell you right now, I'd rather have my daughter have the self-defense stuff going on more so than the sports stuff right now. She's my daughter. I want her to be safe.
Yeah.
And your kid to stop the bullying, for kids who are being bullied. But why not do both? I mean, it's the self-defense aspect is part of jiu-jitsu. Mm. Learn them both. They're both valuable. And man, since we're spending all this time doing jiu-jitsu anyway, just completely take the whole system and embrace it.
Yeah, for sure. And something that I've learned from not just you guys, but also the last 2 instructors I've trained under, my when I was in Poland for 5 months, the people who I trained with there, and then the guy who I train under right now here in Germany, Rene Becker. They both teach, like, it should be, like, for example, the guys in Poland, they were not teaching self-defense. They were teaching sport jiu-jitsu. But the style that they advocated and what our coach taught was very similar to what you guys taught. It was get the takedown, get on top, get a choke or arm bar or something like that. And it's like, and the my coach here in Germany as well. It's like, get the takedown, pass the guard, get to mount, take the back or something, get a choke, and I'm obviously, like you just mentioned, there's surprise attacks, there's distance management, there's other stuff you do have to consider in a street fight. But I guess what I'm saying is it's very possible to say, like, my jiu-jitsu game could also work very well on the street if I tweak it a certain way, like the same style of jiu-jitsu that will work on the street will work in a tournament very well.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we do. That is a great point that you made, and I like that. Helison style, in my opinion, does both very well. So even when he's doing sport jiu-jitsu, it's just a minor change to stop from getting punched in the face.
Right.
So you're always that positional awareness and having the base and all that is a great thing. And so, everything I do in jiu-jitsu and everything that the Helison guys do in jiu-jitsu is basically for a fight.
Yeah.
It's just a slight variation difference if things go bad. But to do the sport, it's just kind of, you just don't take it. You don't make that change, So the crossover between the two, I think it should be a very narrow crossover.
Yeah.
I think they should be close to one another, some sports moves get really crazy,
For sure.
and I don't even think are that great for sport. I think a base can shut it down. But also you got to remember that a lot of things that people do are based on their body size and their athleticism, their flexibility. You get a guy that's in his 40s, he's not going to be able to invert as well as somebody that's in their 20s. Just life has beat him down, and his body is over time is not able to move like a 25-year-old person that can invert and do barambolos and all that other stuff. The game has to be, self-defense is for everyone. Sport stuff, as awesome as it is, not everyone can do it. Even though I'm sure there's some moves when you do sport, there's some moves that you just don't do. There's some moves that just doesn't fit into to your style or your body type and stuff. So, but the self-defense side, it works for everyone. And Helison's jiu-jitsu, generally, even the sports side, can easily be pushed into a self-defense genre as well. So his jiu-jitsu covers both.
Yeah, and I think that's
not an easy feat.
Yeah, it's just I think it's efficient though to structure it that way. You can't be like,
Absolutely.
on the street I do this, I take him down and get the mount, but in sport, I'm gonna do barambolas. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like you could also do that in the tournament. You could take them down, get them out, and then you get the shot.
Ideally.
Yeah.
Look at Kron. Kron doesn't do a lot of crazy things,
No.
Hodge Gracie, even though he's a monster and hydraulically strong, I hear. But what crazy stuff does he do in his game?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Basics.
All their stuff they're doing you could have learned in blue belt class. They've just perfected it and mastered it, and they're making it successful in the sport game.
Mm-hmm.
Which is wonderful. I love it. I think some of the greatest things is to see some of the moves that that move I learned as a white belt. Well, you just pulled it off in the black belt competition. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But why does it have to be it doesn't have to be a math problem. I just think it has to be good timing and having good instincts and stuff. It doesn't have to be this crazy equation and it gets out of control. And the more elements to a move, the more elements you have that you can mess it up, And if it's a real fight, all it takes is that one smack to the noggin, that one punch to the button, on your jaw, your nose, whatever, and then you forgot your move, So if you're not, and I've seen it happen, it's happened to me before.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard that someone gets hit and then, they're no longer a black belt.
Right.
They're a brown belt. Yeah. Well, even though it's a funny and old saying, but there is some truth to that, And I'm not saying people need to go out and practice getting punched. They need to go out and practice defending against the punch.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of guards out there that doesn't take into consideration the damage that your face can take. And we're not even talking about things like on the street, like a crazy maniac. If he's going to attack you on the street anyway, he's a nut. So he means you harm. What if he might want to bite your face off? He might want to stick his thumbs in your eyes. He might want to do something crazy like that. You have to just kind of be prepared for that. And it's a different level of it's not keeping it playful at that point, obviously.
Yeah.
So you have to, two different things. Ask an officer. A lot of officers use jiu-jitsu. A lot of federal officers, use jiu-jitsu. That's what they train now. The Army is now taking up on it. Mm-hmm. They're very basic stuff, but very effective. The Army's been doing it for a while, actually. But that is a good point. Being able to switch between the two is nice. I just don't think it should be a night and day switch to where you have to completely forget about one and do the other.
Yeah.
I think they should complement one another.
For sure. So, I think that it's very important to, like you said, be able to complement each other. Because what if you meet someone on the street who used to wrestle? What if you used to do jiu-jitsu? There's a lot of people in jiu-jitsu who are crazy. I've met some people, like, I'm not going to, name names or anything, but there's some people in jiu-jitsu who are crazy. I've heard of gyms that are affiliated with organized crime and stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff out there. I'd
hope to stay away from a place like that. But my point is that, I think for the most part, people that train jiu-jitsu or people in martial arts in general, whether there might be some martial arts guys are a little weird. You're like, wow, this guy's a little nutty. But in general, most of them kind of have that honor code that they would never want to start a fight or they would never want to be the bully in a fight.
For sure.
And that's just in martial arts in general. There's definitely there's an honor. And jiu-jitsu. I mean, we're all trying to be good guys. We want to be nice. We just want to be able to defend ourselves against the crazies out there. But yeah, I think the worst case scenario is to find a talented crazy guy. Wow, that would be horrible. What are you going to do with that guy?
Yeah.
So he's good at he's good at being jiu-jitsu, and he's also good at being a nut. You got to put him out. So. That's the guy you want to control and make him an MMA fighter.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
If you can put the parameters on him, say, don't kill him, just go in there and beat him up a little bit.
Yeah. Have you met anyone like that in the MMA world or anything?
Well, yeah. Listen, the guys that I work with over at Kaizen, they're all great guys.
Right.
I mean, they really are.
Of course.
We tease them like, wow, you guys are the weirdest guys I ever met. But we tease each other about that. But they really are good guys.
Yeah.
I haven't met a truly wacko fighter. I mean, I don't know what they do behind closed doors, but at least in the class and stuff, they all have their personalities. They all have their, some of them are little divas, some are little prima donnas, and they come up with their own issues and problems before fights and weight cuts and things like that. But most of them are good guys, and they're tough as nails, and it takes a lot to get out there and fight. It takes a lot to get out there and compete. And, most of the population doesn't do stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I haven't met a really crazy one that I would say needs to be locked up. No,
that's good.
I haven't met anyone like that.
That's good.
But I'm sure that officers could tell you some. Just meeting the average guy on the street, meeting a wrestler that has high school wrestling. I mean, at a bar, let's say if you're at a bar and something goes down, the high school wrestler that has that training, is going to do really well at a bar. He's going to be throwing people all over the place. If he's a collegiate wrestler, it's even going to be worse.
Good luck.
So wrestling, wrestling is is a huge thing. I think wrestling's wonderful. You know, I'm not against that. I'll make sure all my guys know a little wrestling for sure. That's a good point. No crazies yet. And if they're crazy, you know, we got kids in the school. You know, we can't have a real nut running around like that. You know,
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, if someone comes in at our school down in Kaizen, MMA in Fairfax and in Falls Church, if they're not a good person, we're not going to keep them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to make sure that they're teachable, that they're not going to, you know, I have a big issue of trash talking. I don't want any of my students trash talking, you know, before fights and stuff like that. And I have a really problem with showboating too. I can't stand people that showboat. Once you showboat, if you don't win, you know, you're going to eat that crow. And I see that happens every once in a while.
Yeah.
Don't showboat. I just made a post not too long ago on Facebook saying to keep it business. You know, keep it business in the cage. You know, it's okay to celebrate. Celebrate after you win. Don't celebrate during the fact.
Yeah.
You know, just keep your mind, you know, on what you're doing. And I see when I see even my own student, I see him celebrating too much or showboating. I'm like, damn, man, I hate when he does that. You know, I don't like it. And trash talking is another thing that I can't stand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, everyone, you know, like Conor McGregor, you know, the guy's incredible, but you know, I can't stand the fact that he runs his mouth all the time.
Yeah.
You know, one reason when Fedor was the man, you know, when Fedor never trash talked anybody. You know, how do you dislike a guy like Fedor?
He just looks at you and you're scared. It's all the trash talking he needs.
Yeah. But I understand it. It's a game and people have their acts and stuff like that. But in general, I hate it.
I also feel like Conor McGregor it's almost like a different, you might disagree, which is, you know, cool, but it's almost like a different level of thing. He's got so much media on him at this point and such a spotlight, and it's almost like, you know, he's going to talk shit, but like he probably
it's
doesn't
entertaining.
He's entertainment. Like he probably doesn't mean half the stuff he's saying. He's just, you know, he's just getting people interested in the sport.
I've never met him, but I know there's some high level fighters that do a little trash talking, but when you meet them in person, they're the nicest guys around. You know, they're like, oh man. So as a coach, though, I just you know, I don't like to see it. You know,
there's a big. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just don't like to see it. You know, and if you see that stuff and then you lose, I mean, it's like, hey, then you get a taste of that. You're going to feel that sting, you know, and then and deservedly so. If you're going to do that, you deserve to feel that. In my opinion, another thing that I wanted to bring up, something that's important to me, is the ability to follow instructions, whether it's a jiu-jitsu match or whether it's an MMA match. You know, the ability to listen to your coach is a huge deal. To me, it's almost like cheating. You know, if you're doing what your coach is telling you to do, that's what they're there to coach you for. You know, I mean, some people will have coaches on the sideline and you know, they're just more of encouragement, you know. Yeah. But if you have a coach that's actually helping you and actually, you know, and if you can listen to them and follow their instructions, if you can hear them, and it takes practice. You know, we sometimes we have had our guys line up where everyone in the gym's yelling, you know, and screaming, and we want them to listen to one guy only, you know, to try to make, like, for example, the MMA guys we have, when we corner, we have one guy that does most of the talking, you know. Yeah. The other coaches will filter information to him, but the one guy does the talking, and it just so happens that his voice carries, and you know, and he can, his voice really will cut through a building. But being able to listen to your coach and say, hey, you know, and otherwise people get out there and they get kind of in their own little world, and it's hard to, you know, without experience, it's hard to kind of remember, hey, I got this team over here that's coaching me through this, you know. But I found that the people that actually that can have the ability to listen to the instructions during the rounds and between rounds, and not be so overwhelmed by the situation, that they will be more successful if they do that. A lot of guys that get out there and as soon as they walk out, we're like, hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hey, can you hear me? And they're gone. You know, they're in another planet at that point. You know, So we work our guys to get them to go, hey, man, you need to be able to pay attention to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. In between rounds, some guys, you can just see that they're not fully there. They're just they're into the fight, but they're not fully there. The smart fighters are the ones that can keep their composure and listen to the instructions of their corner. To me, like I said, it's like cheating. It's like cheating, especially if the other guy's not doing it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's good to have a great cornerman and a great coach. Even in jiu-jitsu, I mean, I got a couple students that it's almost like I'm playing a video game with them. I can tell them what to do, and they just do it. They don't question it; they just do it, and it's incredible. And it makes it more fun for me too. And we have a young guy that we're bringing up named Eduardo. That this kid's going to be incredible. He's been competing and winning, and since he's been about 8 years old, and this guy is going to be a champion.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's actually took his first 2 MMA fights, and the guys, I mean, he literally, if you say, keep your chin down, he puts his chin down. Keep your hands up, he puts his hands up. Mm-hmm. He listens to what you're saying, and he's able to get the job done with composure and look like he's been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
So and that's a rare find.
I feel like that's something that is getting a little more traction nowadays, like the art of cornering. But I feel like it's something that does not get talked about enough because it's so important. Like I know John Donaher makes a lot of Facebook posts about it, about the importance of being a good cornerman and how he thinks it's an art just as much as teaching is an art. There's so much that goes into it. There's so many cues you have to work out. Like you have to get to the point where you can shout out to your athlete, instructions, but the other guy doesn't understand. Like
there's definitely something to that.
Yeah, Dean talks about that whenever he teaches his seminars. He talks about like the different nicknames that he gives to different moves. Some of them are absolutely hilarious, but he talks about like the nicknames he has for each one of his setups, so that way he'll shout it out during his match, and the other guy won't know, what his student is going for, stuff like that. So
I think that's great. Well, we're lucky over at Kaizen. The 2 top fighters we have over there is a guy named Eugene Wally. He's a 205er, now he's moving up, and we got Ahmet. It's hard to pronounce his last name. A guy named Ahmet Kaliini. It's hard to pronounce his last name. I'm sorry. But the good news is that that Nima, who does most of the talking over there, can yell out and Farsi, and so no one else is in there going to be able to speak the Farsi, and so they can get their instructions and like that.
Yeah.
And in the other case scenarios where they're not, we would do something more along the lines like you were talking about. Have the move that move is, you have a specific name for that move, or and to be honest with you, a lot of times the other fighter's so bewildered, right? He might not even hear it. If you got 2 smart fighters in there, they can discern what the other coach might be saying to them and stuff. But the main thing is that none of that stuff works if your fighter is not composed.
Yeah.
And that's a huge difference. And that when have you competed and you felt that fight or flight, that nervousness, that some guys are running back and forth to the bathroom 50 times before they step on the mat. Other guys, they have gas, and they feel like, oh my God, or they're freaking out of what to eat. I don't want to eat now, and so all that stuff is pre-tournament, pre-fight management is a huge deal.
Yeah.
But that also comes with more experience too. The more you do it, the more you kind of find your niche and stuff. So but yeah, I've had a lot of guys that I know that have competed in before either a fight or a tournament. They'll walk around, they're being a social butterfly, and I'm like, just stop, go back inside, lay down somewhere, relax, maybe watch a little TV. Just don't be out there listening to the crowd, listening to all that, too soon, because you're dumping adrenaline throughout that period of time.
Yeah.
And so it's it's just like if you're waiting for a tournament, you're waiting for your match, and you thought you were going to go up an hour ago, but it's 3 hours later and you still haven't competed.
The worst.
Whether it's the worst, and it makes it not as fun But I think during that time, you're dumping small amounts of adrenaline through that whole time.
Yeah,
and
sure.
To be able to manage that and stuff, and the guys that have been doing it for a while are good at it, but the guys that aren't, they go out there and they feel like they're not themselves.
Yeah.
So that stuff's important. The mental prep for the game is a huge deal. Some guys are natural at it. Some guys, and anybody that says, when, especially in the beginning, that if a guy's maybe was a wrestling competitor, they're not going to go out there and get so nervous out there. They've been wrestling their whole lives, but a lot of people do have those jitters out there, and I find that learning to deal with that can go a lot farther. I would rather being composed is almost like having another skill set. So it's a big deal to me.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone right away is not doing that.
What's a way that you train that in your fighters?
Well, one of the ways we train it is get them as much experience as possible, as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. Meaning, like, let's say if it's an MMA fighter and I have one guy that's a great stand-up guy, world-class stand-up guy. And the whole idea is to keep him off, right now, to keep him off the ground. He just doesn't know enough jiu-jitsu. So one of the ways we're doing that right now is there's like 6 tournaments coming up in the next 3 months. He's going to be at every single tournament, to work on his ground game. Because not plus along with the classes and stuff. So we don't want him. If you're a fighter and you go in there and you have a weakness, let's say if you're a great hands guy, but you have a weakness that I don't want to get to the ground.
Yeah.
You're not going to be you're not going to pull the trigger on your hands as much. Yeah. Because of the fact that you're afraid that you might get taken down or so. But once his confidence is on the ground, and once he has confidence on the ground along with his hands, then then he can let fly his game. So that's why that's what we're doing with this one guy. He's incredible hands, and his jiu-jitsu is getting better, but he needs to completely inundate himself with grappling right now. His hands aren't going to get any better. Yeah. His hands are there. I mean, he's world class. Probably one of the best around. But he's not going to. He needs improvement on the ground. So hey, every tournament you go to, you're going to every one of them. You're not going to miss one of them. And that's what he's going to do. And as a professional, he will do it. Another thing is realizing that that a lot of guys visualization and all that stuff. There's all kinds of there's programs out there. There's one program that I particularly like. It was called Wintensity, and I'll have my guys check out that. I'm not trying to give a plug for the Wintensity things, but it has helped a few of my fighters and competitors. It gives you instead of like a shrink talking to you through your head, it's more common, basic information that was with your body at the time, what you're feeling right there at the time, to turn that into how to turn that into success as opposed to letting it, because a lot of guys have you ever seen guys that are super fit and they can do great, and then at school they're killers in the school. They get in a tournament and they lay eggs in a tournament or they'll gas. I'm like, wow, you're the most fit guy we got. You gassed out. Well, a lot of guys are gassing because of the mental side of it. Maybe they're holding their breath. Imagine if you're holding your breath, half as much. If you're holding your breath throughout the fight and the other guy isn't, you're going to gas out sooner. For sure. A lot of guys don't realize that holding their breath is a thing that's important. That mental game is huge, and plus also getting to know each individual competitor. What's going on with them, how to deal with them. I have one competitor severely has got ADHD. The guy's, he's a good guy, but he's got ADHD. I got him a little differently, and I spend a little bit more time with him, and I teach him a little differently. And we have one guy that, for him specifically, he's got to be hands-on all the time. He can't sit down and listen to a class. He cannot sit and take a class. It has to be, and when I do prime, I'm rolling with him the whole time, and I'm teaching him as I'm rolling. Yeah. Because he can't sit still for a class. Yeah. It's amazing. It's kind of sad, but you have to teach him differently. Yeah,
I feel like that guy. I'm kind of like that. Like if the instructor talks for longer than like 3 minutes on a technique, I'm zoned out. I'm like, sorry, Sorry, I'm trying really hard, but as I'm the same way, I'm very like hands-on, but if you teach me something while we're rolling, then I remember it 100%.
Absolutely. And there's a place for all of it. And some people teaching while you're rolling is not the thing, Have you noticed some people can actually take note, they got a little notebook out and they can write notes of the moves and stuff like that. And I've never been one to be able to take notes for myself. First off, I can't read my own writing.
Yeah.
It's like some sort of child crazy cat. It's like some alien language. I can't read my own writing, so I don't take, I'm very visual, and I'll have a couple of friends call me up on the phone and they'll go, "Hey, Tony, remember that move where you put your foot here and then you insert your arm?" And I'm like, "Man, you just lost me. I need to be able to see it. For me, I have to see it." And most of my learning comes from visual. Some people need to learn from hearing. Everyone's dominant in one form of a learning or not. And the idea is to approach it all the ways, But there are some people that cannot sit there and take a class, They're always running, skipping around, and it actually at first it kind of made me mad. I'm like, "Aren't you paying attention to what I'm saying?" But it's just them, So, and then I have to change for them, Now you can't do that with every student because you have to run your class or run your school. Mm-hmm. But for fighters, for example, or guys that want to be competitors that you spend extra time with, then you can make those adjustments, And just because someone has an issue like that doesn't mean they can't be complete badasses.
For sure,
on the mat. And we have one guy that's like that, and over at Kaizen, and he's a great fighter, but he has trouble sitting down and sitting still for more than 2 minutes. So,
I feel him. I know how that feels. Yeah, man. There's so much you can do. Yeah, for me, yoga was very important because it helped me learn how to control my breathing, while I'm moving and while I'm basically pay attention to my breath while I'm competing or rolling, and it's been huge. I don't really gas out at all. I get beat at tournaments now because they're better than me, which is nice. Mm-hmm. I'd rather them be better than me gas out, Yeah,
I think yoga's great, man. Yeah. Yoga and jiu-jitsu kind of go hand in hand, mm-hmm. I feel. For the flexibility benefits, but more importantly I believe for the breathing aspect. For sure. Is a huge deal. So if you can if you can control your breathing, and not hyperventilate yourself or not hold your breath, that goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And not gassing. Yeah. So a lot of times you don't even know what you're doing. You just, you're breathing these shallow little breaths, and the other guy, if he's staying more oxygenated than you, he's gonna outlast you. Mm-hmm. So yoga is a great thing. I know that the Meglarese brothers have the yoga for fighters, Phil Meglarese, and I'd recommend that to anybody.
Yeah, man. It's an awesome service. I do yoga for BJJ, and it's awesome. It's fantastic.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you're doing that. It's going to serve you well.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. Another thing that really helped me improve my competition performance was in Poland. What they would do is whenever they had a tournament coming up, they would line up all the people. They knew who was competing in the upcoming tournaments. So they would take those people, especially if it was going to be their first tournament. If they're a white belt or something like that, they'd take those people and they'd match them up in a rolling session against someone their weight. And then they would have all the students in the class line up and watch as if it were a tournament. And they would say, you need to get used to people watching you roll. And
exactly.
And then they would also assign higher belts. They would pick maybe one of the coaches or one of the brown belts, and they'd say, "Okay, you're the coach for this guy, you're the coach for that guy." And then they would go at it, and they would be, coaches would be screaming at them. It was pretty intense, actually. The coaches would be screaming at them, the teammates would be cheering them on and everything, and it was like a mini tournament in the school, and it would get you ready for what was going to happen.
That was kind of like what I was trying to say when as far as listening to your coaches. That's very similar that we've done before. Everyone's yelling. You got to be able to. One of the things that helps you focus is to focus on your coach, and what you're doing. So, but yeah, I think that's great training. It's something that you don't do all the time, but it definitely helps prepare you for a competition. But that is a good way. But nothing beats actually getting in there and experiencing it, and going through those those growing pains. You know, you can lessen it by listening to your coaches, and there are tricks that you can do to help, ease yourself, ease your mind and all. But being there and doing that, is going to help that better more than anything.
Yeah, just getting your fights in, getting your matches in.
Yeah, if you could automatically have 100 tournaments under your belt, man, you're going to be pretty seasoned. Mm-hmm. That stuff's not going to bother you so much. Yeah. But you don't want to be so calm that, I think a little bit of, I don't know if I like to call it nervousness. I think a little bit of that feeling, that readiness feeling is important. Yeah. And no one wants to lose, but you can't be so afraid of losing that you're not winning. So a lot of people, especially a lot of guys, they'll get rank. And as soon as they get ranked, they start to be, they're afraid to lose. Oh, I'm the best guy in the school. I can't go and lose this tournament now. That is the killer. That'll kill your game more than anything. Mm-hmm. Being afraid to lose, or therefore you're not opening your game up. You're not pulling the trigger. You're not doing the moves that you're capable of doing. Being afraid to lose is a huge deal. And there are more people out there that are afraid to lose than would like to admit it. Yeah. And so. That's a big deal, and I'll tell my guys, who cares if you lose? It's a 50 cent, maybe less than that, gold medal thing. It's nothing, What's important here is the experience you bring away from this. So if you lost, what experience did you bring away from that? Just so what? You didn't get that shiny medal, or maybe got a bronze. Who cares? Or maybe you didn't medal at all. We want you to get there, but if you lose something and you're not learning from that, if you lose and you're not taking that experience and going, what did I do this time that was better than last time? What did I, and comparing the two, that's how you can grow in your tournaments. Mm. And I feel like that, hey, if you're going to lose, learn from that. And what did you not sleep the night before? Did you do something different? Were you not listening to your coach this time around? Were you nervous? There's so many things you can figure out about it, and then you can just go down basically like a checklist and just go over it, and then you help it the next time out. Maybe just as the fact that the guy's better than you. Hey, that happens too. But a lot of times, it is a mental game. And I wish that more coaches would focus on that. I think the good coaches do.
Yeah, I think they do for sure. And a lot of the best fighters do. A lot of the best fighters in the UFC, they get on the Joe Rogan podcast or some other podcast, and they talk about it a lot. Like Dominic Cruz was just on Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't know if you listen to that one, but it's fantastic.
Yeah. My guy Ahmet does a lot of training with Dominic Cruz.
Oh, awesome.
So he's the one that just was at the CFC. It was a good fight, one of the most entertaining fights of the night. But
that's awesome.
That mental game that these fighters are, that is important. If you're going to train like a maniac, not spend as much time with your family, that being a fighter or even a full-time jiu-jitsu guy, it takes a lot of time away. If you're going to do that and do it like a professional, and most people, I guess most of your listeners I'm guessing, are just people that want to or they love the sport, and just they're not professional at it. But if you're going to go that route, and not train the mental side of the game, it's insane. I'm sure every Olympic athlete trains their mental. I'm sure some of them might even see a sports psychologist to help them prepare for their game. I'm not saying you have to go do that, but if you're going to be a professional, you need to train that side too.
You have to, for sure.
But in a regular jiu-jitsu guy, if you have a guy that's 35 and he wants to compete for the first time, he's going to walk away with an experience that he's never had before. Yeah. He's going to learn something about himself, and think of it this way. If you can go into, that nervousness you get before a tournament and that you get, what's it going to be like? That is how much worse is going to be if it's on the street, and when the guy really wants to hurt you, at least in a tournament, the guy, he's going to let go of you. Yeah. If you, but I mean, so part of that tournament that's why I believe the sport can help you with the street. That's because you're more athletic. You do have jiu-jitsu moves, and plus you're used to the contact, the physical contact, the nervousness. Have you ever heard of people and their knees shake on the street? I mean, actually, it's a thing. Yeah. They feel like they almost like an out of body experience. and they're nervous and they even kind of stutter in their words a little bit.
Yeah.
That's something. We're like when someone's drunk or something, they're not feeling it so much, are they? No. But hey, being able to get in tournaments, I think it's a wonderful thing to compete. It's a wonderful thing. The more competition you can compete in, the better. Some guys, you could come into your school. We have some older guys in our school. They're never going to compete, and they love the sport. They love the camaraderie. They love the fact that it's like a family, and they love to roll and to the best of their ability in the school. But so they're never going to compete, and you need guys like that too. Otherwise your school won't be successful. If you have nothing but competitors and fighters in your school, you need to be able to have regular folks in there too. And a perfect example is most MMA schools around here. The MMA program is a drain on the school. It costs money. It's not making the money. The kids program is what's bringing in the money to the schools. Mm-hmm. The self-defense program, the regular jiu-jitsu programs, but an MMA program, is not a money-making thing generally. No. Unless the fighter makes it big,
Unless you live in a crazy place.
Yeah. So, like Mike has like close to 500 guys at his school now, Yeah. Awesome. Between two schools, very successful. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of kids over there. They pay the bills, Plus, you're bringing up some. You're helping them out. They're not getting bullied in school, or they're at least learning about it. And then they end up half their parents wanting to join too. And so you got parents, you got the students in there, and you have a facility that's running well, and you're doing something good for the community. Yeah. So Mike Stewart is really he's really doing well. I'm real proud of him.
He's awesome.
Yeah, him and Jordan are they run the school out there. They're doing really well.
Those guys are awesome. I talk to Mike all the time. He's probably listening right now. Yeah. What up, Mike?
Yeah, yeah. Mike's the man. I spend a lot of time talking. Late at night, sometimes they give me a call. We're just talking about moves or talking about the school or something. And I'm like, oh man, I got to crash, man. I'm falling asleep here.
It's funny because he probably gets off the phone with you. It's like 4 a.m. Then he talks to me because
man, it's like 4 a.m.
I'm 6 hours ahead, so like I get messages from Mike at like 9 or 10 or even like 11 in the morning, and I'm like, Mike, what do you go to sleep?
It's funny.
It's great.
But, I guess you can maybe throughout the day take some naps too. But I as I'm getting older, I'm 49 now, so I need to get my sleep.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I'm not able to keep up with these young guys like I used to. But I try. I'm doing my best I can.
I'm sure you do just fine. I'm sure you do just fine. Toney, this has been awesome, and I've unfortunately got to go, but let's do this again sometime. Hopefully in person.
Yeah, definitely. I hope to see you soon, man.
Yeah, man.
When you get back in town, please come train with us.
I will.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Is there anything you'd like to promote or talk about before we wrap it up?
I want to thank I want to thank Helison Gracie for just being my instructor over the years, and I appreciate guys like you and helping the sport and helping it grow. It's a good thing. You guys are doing well. And so that's about it. I'm happy. We're all doing well.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Trying to do well. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, definitely when you get back here, please come stop in and train, man.
I will, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Talk to you soon. Thanks again to Toney for being on the show. And thanks to everyone for tuning in for another episode of this podcast. Tune in next week for our episode with Mussin Corbry. Mussin is a pro MMA fighter and a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We had a really good conversation, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. It'll be up next week. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and a review on either iTunes or Stitcher. It's a really great way to help support the show. It helps us rank higher in search results so more people find out about this podcast. Visit matrix.com nbsp.com for all the show notes for this episode and also our upcoming seminars. This weekend, the 25th and 26th of March, we're hosting Leg Lock Weekend at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu in Kaiserslautern, Germany. On the 25th of March, this Saturday, Oliver Taza is going to be teaching a seminar. The very next day, Dean Lister will be teaching a seminar. On April 8th, Ethan Krellenston will be joining us for a seminar, also at Matrix. All the information you need can be found on matrix.com. Send us a message and reserve your spot. Also on matrix.com, you'll find the newsletter. We're trying to start a newsletter and develop some more content for you guys via email. So if you're interested, please go to matrix.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get some free content. Right now, you're listening to music produced by Vinny Russo. Check out his music on SoundCloud. The link can also be found, guess where? Matrix.com. And also, you're about to hear music from Waves Overhead. Waves Overhead is a band out of my home state of Maryland in the United States, and they produced the theme song for the Matrix podcast. You can check them out at wavesoverhead.bandcamp.com to download their music and give them a financial contribution if you feel led to by the spirit of love and peace in this world. Their song, To Make Amends, is the theme song for the Matrix podcast. You heard a little bit at the beginning, and I'm going to play the rest for you right now.